Okay, so what I've got here is my Tascam us16x08. I've added the brackets to the end, to each end, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit it to my rack box. But because inputs 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16 are on the back of the Tascam, and all 8 outputs are on the back of the Tascam, what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect those outputs and inputs to this device here, and this is an Ultra Patch Pro model PX2000. I don't know if they still make these or not, but basically it's a 1/4 inch jack to 1/4 inch jack patch box, and that will mean that when I've finished, the outputs on the back and the inputs on the back of the Tascam will be available to me at the front of my rack box through this patch box. So I have to wire them up, and the six inputs that are 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16 on the inputs on the back, they are going to connect. I'm going to conveniently use them on the inputs and outputs of the patch bay with the same numbers. So I'm going to use 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16. And for the outputs on the Tascam, which are 1 to 8, I'm going to use 1 to 8 on the patch bay as well. So they nicely do not clash with each other. Now, the patch box allows you to set it up with either parallel, half normaled, or open as the settings for the patch between the front two inputs, outputs, and the rear two input outputs for each individual channel. But since I'm just going to use these as a throughput for the most part, I've set them all to open. Now the only two that I'm going to do differently is because I've got over here I've got a Waldorf micro Q, and that's already in the rack box, so that is going to be connected to my Tascam at the back anyway. So what I'm going to do with that one, and in theory this should work, is I will plug the I'll plug the micro Q into 11 and 12. Now that will be an input, so on this the input at the front is on B and the output on the front is on A. So if I want to connect my micro Q, the output of my micro Q, to this patch box, and then from this patch box to the Tascam, well, basically what I'll be doing is I'm going to connect it to 11 and 12, so I'll just show you on 11 here. So if I connect the input from the Tascam channel 11 with this, then this is a straightforward patch cable, and if I then connect that, that's then going to be connected to 11 on here, which is over here, and that's going to connect, this is coming from the back, so it's going to connect into A on the back of here. Now, because then that would just run that straight to the front, and I don't really want to connect a cable to the front here and straight back into the B input. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set it on the patch, on the Ultra Patch Pro, so that it is normaled, which means if I now connect a cable, so I've set those to normaled for 11 and 12. So if I now connect another cable to 11B, that cable now can connect to the micro Q. So the output from the micro Q will come down here, it will run into, what have we got, B. Now I've got that completely the wrong way around. So as normal, the output will come out of B, so there we go. So the Tascam input goes into B, and the other cable, so the micro Q will connect into the A input, and the cable coming out of B will connect to the Tascam input for 11. And because it's normal, so that means that those will now connect up. But, and this is in theory because I haven't actually tested this, but here in theory, if I was then to choose later on to say connect a synthesizer to 11 and 12 instead, then I can connect the synthesizer to 11B, and that will now pass through 11B on the front to 11B on the back. So the synthesizer would connect, the one I patched in at the front would connect directly to 11, and the connection between the Waldorf and the Tascam will actually be cut off. So it gives me the option of using those inputs even though I've already got them connected into the micro Q. So that's the theory for that. Okay, so we're going back to this now. So yes, I've got 11 and 12 is slightly different, but if I now patch these up, I'm going to patch these up now. So if I take the patch cables I've got here, so I'm going to put these patch cables in. I've just chosen my colours as a preference to me, and they're not really important what colours I choose. So I'm going to patch in the 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16 on the back of the Tascam, and they are going to connect to, and make sure I've got this right again, so these are inputs, so that's got to be an input coming in, so these are connecting to the B's on here, so I'll connect those into, sorry, the B's. It's going to patch into the B's. I'm going to make sure I get them around the right way, don't want to cross the cables. So they connect into the B's. Okay, so that's how this is going to sit inside. So now if I connect a synthesizer into my B sockets on the patch bay, that will connect directly into the back. Now, I'm going to do the same with the Tascam outputs. Plug in these cables, and these are all kind of individual, so it doesn't really matter whether my cables are paired colours, but I'm going to do paired colours anyway. Just makes it more convenient for me. So there they are, all patched in. These are all the line outs. So when these connect into the patch bay, these are outs, so they're all going to go into the A's on this one. And I probably should have done this round the other way to make life a little bit easier for myself by patching in the outs before the ins, but it's not hugely important. So connect these into the A's. Now the interesting thing about the patch bay is that it doesn't actually need any power whatsoever for a patch bay. And I've just crossed these cables, and that's the thing you have to be careful of, making sure you don't cross, and I've actually done it there as well. So I'll try that again. Got to make sure you don't cross the cables over. I suppose if I had used different colour cables, I probably could have protected myself against that. But nevertheless, I didn't, so it's connecting 11, 8, 7 and 8. There we go. So that's all the cabling connected up. There's no power actually required, as I say, to run the patch box. I am going to have to connect the power to the Tascam, and I'm also going to have to connect the USB cable so that can be connected to my computer. But these two now are actually ready to be put into my rack box. Now I could have wired these up inside the rack box, that is fair to say, but my preference wasn't to do that because it's just a little bit easier to do it outside like this, so I can guarantee that I've set them up the right way round, but also it was a lot easier to show you from an outside point of view. So I can now offer those down into my patch bay. There we go. Now the only thing that's particularly awkward about this patch bay is that the bolts, they rather readily move by themselves, which is not preferable. And one has just decided to put itself where I don't want it. Oh well, now I've pulled a thing off there. Okay, so I'll just turn it up slightly so I can push that back out a minute. And this is like what I call my backstage videos, so you know this video is as it is. There's no fancy editing, this is just purely how I do it as it happens. And probably over a period of time I'll get used to more looking at the camera to actually do these rather than what I'm doing now, because this is obviously, well, not necessarily obviously, but this is obviously quite new to me because this is only the second backstage video that I've actually done, and I thought this would be useful just to show how things happen in the real world as opposed to being organised for a specific fancy video. Okay, so now that is put together in here. They're screwed into place, that's all sorted there now, so I'm pretty much ready to go on the outside, and just need to tip it over this way now. And going into the back of the box, still need 2 cables for the micro Q, so I'm going to grab myself a couple of red cables I've got here, and they're going to go from the, what do we got, main out here from the master Q, from the micro Q should I say, and these are going to plug into the A's of 11 and 12, and that, I don't know if you can see that from here, but that's all quite neatly put together in the back of that now. And so all I'm left to do with at this point is to connect this nice thick USB cable that comes with the Tascam into the back of there, and then the Tascam power cable which goes on the other end. It also goes into a little clip which is nice, although perhaps not that particularly necessary in a rack, but it's quite nice either way. And that's that done.